The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. Building your soil for a better garden next year. Now, we do a lot of things in order to get the soil to the consistency and the nutrient level that we want for our plants that we're trying to grow. However, there is a depletion of nutrients that is the natural progression of a garden. It takes some and it leaves some, and we've got to replenish it. The soil is living. It's not just a medium where we pump chemicals into the soil for the plants to feed off, and then the soil's dead. Our garden soil, your garden soil, is alive.
Absolutely. And that's the thing to keep in mind, is that your soil is a living, breathing, processing.
Does soil cough?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But maybe worms cough. But worms don't have lungs, I don't think.
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, your soil is like its own little ecosystem. And we're going to talk about our ecosystems in the next segment.
Okay.
All right. So one thing you don't want to do, here's a do not, is add fertilizer right now.
Fertilizer is not needed right now. Fertilizer is a waste of money and resources right now in the fall. Now, if you're going to plant something right now for fall harvest, then yes. But if we're just prepping the soil and let it lay fallow until next spring, or you're putting a cover crop on that feeds the soil, then you still don't need to add fertilizer because you've got a good deal on it. Fertilizer is going to be just as effective in the bag, in the shed, the garage, or the house, not being used until next spring. Fertilizer, if put in the soil now, it's going to lose its effectiveness by the time you plant something next spring. So keep it in the cool, dry place, get a good deal on it at your local independent garden center, and let it set inside. We don't want to add anything like that to the garden. If you're doing a cover crop, or you're doing clover, or barley, or oats, or something like that in order to create a green manure, then yes, then you really don't have to, because those plants are going to do what it needs to do. But you're covering the soil with something, you're growing something, and if you're not going to do a cover crop, then leaves, or mulch, or straw, or chemical-free, seed-free grass clipping, something to cover the soil.
Right, and that's the thing, is that you want to turn your compost or your leaves or whatever it may be is going to eventually turn into soil. So it's a good time now to add that to the soil, and keep in mind that it will take a process, but it will feed that soil and build you more soil. So
let's say you've got a raised bed. Let's say you got a 4 by 10 raised bed. That's 40 square feet. And you got some compost that's not quite finished, and you've already harvested your potatoes. We'll fill in the blank. You can take that partially composted compost and mix into the soil, and then cover that soil with leaves or straw or chemical-free, seed-free grass clippings, and create an ecosystem where by next spring that will have broke down, in addition to the additive natural materials you have on top of it, and you've composted in the bed in which you're going to grow. And you can open up the compost pile for the new stuff you're going to add to it currently and into the fall.
Right, and that's important, is to think about your compost, because you want to
make sure
it's your friend. You want to make sure that you have room, you're properly able to create more compost, and the whole point of composting is to get it into your garden, so you should do that.
Now, I know none of us make enough compost for for our needs. So in that instant, we would need to supplement or find resources that have a lot of compost. Now, you can do that by doing a simple online search for compost in bulk in my area. Independent garden centers typically have a yard in which you can get bulk material either pick up or delivered for a fee. That is going to be much more economical than buying 35 or 40 or 83 bags, 2 cubic foot bags. And the quality typically is a lot better too.
And I think one thing to keep in mind is knowing where that particular compost came from. And I'm not talking about like if it came from a garden center or a city yard.
The
source, like, is this just somebody's combined, like my neighbor's combined pile of the yard waste, or is
like a city municipality compost pile,
or is this organic compost? What makes it organic? Is this just regular compost? What is it? If it's something like manure, whose horse or whatever is it from?
What they have different categories like plant-based and then enriched and the raised bed mix. They have a whole bunch of different combinations and on and on. But a reputable independent garden center that sells bulk material either by delivery or you go and take it and fill it up in your truck or car. It can be done in a car. We've done it in a car before. We got a half yard in a Honda Civic trunk. You bag it up and put it in buckets in the back seat.
One of the smaller Honda Civics.
Yeah.
Not like the newer ones that are larger.
Small ones. They will know the source. They can trace all this back to the origins of where the material came from before it's turned into the compost that you have now going to be putting in your garden.
It would be like batch 4582 or something.
They have that the traceability. So you want to leave roots in your soil. If you if you have corn or beans or tomatoes, weeds, you want to get the roots out, and then consider a cover crop. We can use clover, red wheat, annual rye, agricultural mustard, fava beans, alfalfa, sorghum. So there's woody pod vetch. There's a lot of different things, and we don't have time to get into the whole aspect of what is a cover crop and how does it benefit, which we may do here in a couple of weeks. But it's something that covers the soil. We talk to many guests on this program week in and week out. Cover the soil. Nature has everything covered. We've got to mimic nature in order for it to have any chance of success in our garden.
Well, it's true, and it makes a lot of sense. If you go out to the woods, you're not going to find bare soil. You're not going to find...
The only place you find bare is the desert, and nothing grows in the desert. There's stuff. Well, there's cacti and but you know what I mean. The soil is, there's not a whole lot of living soil material like you would in.
But I think there's stuff under the sand.
Right, but we're referring woods, prairie, forest. The soil's covered. And when you move that soil, when you move that covering back, the soil is alive. You see things crawling around. You see worms. Just like in your garden, we've used this example before. We cover our garden with leaves and piles of leaves in the fall. And in the spring, we come back and remove those leaves in order to plant and then utilize them as a mulch. But when we move those leaves back, we've got we got crawling insects, and we've got bugs, and we've got worms, and the soil is nice and vibrant, and it looks alive. It's not dried out like an old sunburned beachgoer.
No, it is. It's very alive. It's very... moist.
It looks healthy. Now
it looks healthy.
True, Holly. You don't know the health of the soil until you get a soil test from Soil Savvy. To know what your levels are.
And that's kind of what I suggested as well. Was if you're going to add fertilizer in the spring, get a soil test before you do so, because you want to kind of know what's going on, especially if it's been a while. You want to be aware.
And guessing doesn't work. There are telltale signs that a plant will display if it's this or if it's that, but until you have hard numbers on a paper or an email saying the nitrogen's too high, the phosphorus too low, you got no zinc, the copper and all this, the micronutrients and things like that. Soil Savvy at soilsavvy.com can do that for you and give you a 16-point analysis of what your soil needs or doesn't need and how to correct it. Well, Holly, WaltonsInc.com has everything you as a gardener, as a kitchen, as a cook, as a barbecuer, as a hunter or a fisher person needs.
Absolutely.
But
they have everything but the meats or vegetables or whatever, because they have seasonings too. So Walton's Inc., you can get all the equipment, seasoning, supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. And they also have meatgistics.com to help educate people on the hows and whys of meat processing, as well as a community of almost 15,000 users who will give their opinion and guidance on meat processing issues.
And they have stuff for packaging the meat too.
Absolutely. And so if you go to waltonsinc.com, they have their full line of meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers, more spices, all these good things. Walton's is everything but the meat. Meatgistics.com or waltonsinc.com. You can use code GROW50 to save 10% off your order of $50 or more.